Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and those who are watching at home. I'd like to present to you to the first video podcast from the company Rising Hope with our guest, Rick Reichert. He is a former retired AT&T principal technical architect, and he's currently in a furniture restoration business and involved in men's ministry. How are you doing today, Mr. Reichert?
I'm doing fine. How are you doing?
That's fantastic.
Good,
I
good.
remember currently talking to you the other day about your previous and life endeavors. So, how did you get started with the world of IT?
I took a computer programming class in high school and I really didn't like it. But then I went to college and I was originally going to thought I might be a doctor, go into pre-med, and I didn't really like it. I took biology and didn't really like it. And so I took a lot of math classes and then I took a computer programming class in college and I really fell in love with it. So then I started taking more computer programming classes and I wound up transferring my math major into being the first computer science degree that UMSL, University of Missouri St. Louis, put out. They're developing a computer science curriculum, but I was the first year to get through it and get a computer science degree. So I was thankful to get that instead of an applied math degree with computer science minor. So that's how I got into it. I picked it up in college and I loved it and loved it ever since.
That's fantastic. Coming from, I just recently graduated from UMSU with a business administration degree and a minor in information technology. So that's a interesting tidbit. I would have never known that. So you said that your passion was computer programming. So tell me, how did that journey lead you to AT&T?
I got my degree, and my dad worked at McDonnell Douglas, and he was a sheet metal guy, working on the S4 Phantom, but had worked his way up into management. So he was trying to get me onto McDonnell Douglas when I graduated. And I'm not sure if he helped me or I had applied to a bunch of jobs out there. So he got me on at McDonnell Douglas, and I was out there about 12 years. McDonnell Douglas became Boeing after I left. And then I was there about 12 years and I needed to make more money. I was hired in really low, and then I had a whole bunch of kids and I kind of needed to make more money. So I was going to move jobs to get a pay hike. So I moved out of McDonnell Douglas and went to a small little computer firm for about 6 months, and then AT&T interviewed me, and I wound up going to AT&T, and I worked there for about 24 years then. So yeah, it was a transition from Boeing to a little software company to AT&T.
That's a big transition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was moved from avionics programming. Avionics means airplanes. Moved
Mhm.
from airplane software into telecom or telecommunication software. Funny thing though is software is software is software. Almost all the industries that you do software, there's strong similarities between all of the different businesses. If you know how to do software, you can do it in almost any domain that you come across.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep that in mind. So I'm just not gonna focus on just software and the mobile industry. I thought that when it comes to software, it had to be specifically tailored to the industry. Like, for example, Android development. I thought that since I'm with dabble in Android development, I would have to use Android based software like Java and Angular. But now, for this information, I could probably shift my interest to avionics programming. That's a good.
Yeah, you could think of it like if you know how to do Android programming, you could do
Mhm.
Android programming for Boeing, or you could do Android programming for AT&T. It's really the platform that matters. If you know the platform, if you know how to do Android programming. Now, there is sometimes you have to know a lot about the technical area. My degree was computer science, so I had a
Mhm.
lot of math and science. So since I had a lot of math and science, I was able to transition from airplane stuff, which is there are some physics involved in airplanes and how they work, and then to telecom, which was mainly communications. But since I had a background in the sciences, I was able to move into programming positions that were involved with the sciences. Sometimes if you're a business programmer, you could
Yeah.
move into different businesses doing programming, but it would be regarding the business. So there is a little bit of partitioning based on what your knowledge is, what your degree is. So you can't quite move anywhere, but
Okay.
if you're a business programmer, you can program business stuff anywhere. If you're a science oriented, math oriented guy, whoever's using math and sciences, you can do programming for them.
Yeah, that makes sense. So since I was mostly deep diving into HTML and JavaScript, I will be like a web developer. That's a
Yep,
it,
and we'll talk some more about that next week too. I have a lot to download to you on your skills and what you have, and then how that translates into jobs, and some skills you might want to add to that to make yourself most flexible and marketable. So we'll
thank
talk
you.
about that more next week.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. Uh, my se- my second question would be: when you found yourself in a tight spot, either doing your career exploration or on a job, how did you maintain a positive attitude?
That's a good question. Normally, you don't hit a lot of pressure at work, but when you hit it, it can be a problem. It can get interesting. Um, One thing that's kind of important is just to kind of keep your cool. And if you're ever in a group of people and you've got something going on, you always pull it off and do it one on one. You never try to resolve some sort of conflict or perceived conflict in a group setting. You always try to do it one on one. It's just much easier um,
Yeah.
to do that. Um, One thing I've learned though is you can't run from it. You can't run from conflict in the workforce. You
Hmm.
take it offline, and then you have to address it. You have to address what's going on. And I've also learned that if I have made a mistake and said something in a group or something that, or I did do something to hurt somebody, or they
Hmm.
perceived it as hurt as attack, an apology goes a long, long way. When I take it offline and I think about what led to it, if I had done something wrong, I am quick to apologize and say, hey, I stepped out of line here. Would you please forgive me because that wasn't appropriate and I didn't handle that well. That covers a lot of your guffaws that you're going to hit, because you're going to make mistakes. You're going to do the wrong thing. But if you're willing to admit you've made a mistake and say you're sorry, and people are pretty forgiving. If you try to hide what you do and blame it on somebody else, they'll come after you with a vengeance. But if you
Yeah.
admit what you did wrong and say you're sorry, that goes a long way to help in the situation.
Yeah. I'm going through that experience as well. Um, it's with a mentor in the group and assigned tasks, and with I had instances where someone would say something that was out of character, and the reaction wasn't the right appropriate way, and I would have to address that in a more calm manner than overreacting, because everyone's emotions get involved. We only human, so it takes a lot of courage and character to admit when we make a mistake, and also it's a big step for know why we made the mistake and how we fix it. The compromise. And I think compromisation is it's a big step for in a collaboration. So you may not see eye to eye on some subjects, but when it comes to the overall goal and the completion of a task, collaboration, empathy, and sympathy for what another person may be going through, it goes a long way. And that point that you made is very, very insightful. It gives a deep thought to how coworkers interact with each other in a workplace setting. Now, virtual, it's it's still there, but
Oh yeah.
oh yeah, and it's difficult. We dealing with the times of difficult, strange, and technical mishaps, and the stress of being at a computer all the time. If you're not used to it, it takes a toll on the body, and the isolation that can be mentally draining. I had to come to a realization that not everybody works at the same pace as everyone else, or they can do certain tasks because they're not familiar with certain aspects of what's been asked or the time crunches, and you still have your day-to-day obstacles and coming together in a virtual space. It seems flexible, but as you say at home, I can work from home. It's more comfortable. Everything accessible. But you have to take in the fact that you have kids, pets, loved ones to take care of in that virtual environment. And people forget that there's still professionalism that must be upholded as though they're in the workplace. And that's the problem I've been seeing with a lot of employees that work from home dealing with on-call resolutions with technical problems I have on my end, doing my day-to-day life. They work from home. They forget that I still have to maintain a professional manner. I'm not at home. I'm getting paid to do a job for a company in the comfort of my home, but I still have to present myself in a manageable, professional way as though I'm inside the physical building. So I like the way that you came and you gave the example of how conflict at a workplace cannot be avoided. It's unavoidable, even if it's doing with family members or hard topics such as religion or politics, and it's still that conflict, and everybody wants to be right, and also no one wants to feel that their opinions matter. So it's a process of coming to a compromising situation without losing face value. So that's
Yeah.
that's a very, very deep insight. I thank you for that. So my fourth question would be what is your key aspiration? Who do you look to besides and the Lord? Because I know you are a Christian man, so as am I. Who is your, I would say, earthly representation? This can be a multiple people of one person. Who do you look to keep you from giving up?
Um, I you mentioned my faith, and that's a strong basis for me. Um, I also, outside of my faith, in the workforce, you'll find people that you you just admire them. You admire how they handle people. You admire how they deal with conflict. You admire how they're able to get things done and motivate teams and treat people with kindness and respect and I you tend to gravitate and say I want to be like those guys. In every workforce you'll find three or four guys that that are just exceptional. So you kind of I'm a big guy about modeling. I like to model what other people are doing. I like to see somebody doing the right thing and then model that and emulate what they're doing. So I would do that. I had a few key guys that were just exceptional, and Um, they had a lot of times they had skills I didn't have. I remember one lady in particular that was a wonderful leader. Instead of correcting people, she would always ask questions. And those questions were guided, open ended questions to help people see what the conflict or problem was and solve it themselves instead of telling them what to do. So I loved watching her do that, and I would copy that to try to, instead of just lead and tell people how to solve a problem, ask the questions to make them think through how to solve the problem themselves. So I really admired that. I also saw people that were able to develop other people. I would work with people sometime and think, oh my gosh, this guy's a disaster. Um, I don't know how he's going to make it at the company. Yet somebody came alongside of them and developed them, and they turned into exceptional workers and leaders. And that was a big lesson for me too, to watch those kind of people and see how they came alongside people and help develop them and have empathy and compassion for them, and develop them as workers and leaders. So for me, it was mainly watching um, key guys, and obviously reading helps as well too. If you're in a field, you can read about stuff in the field, people in the field and then you'll find ones that you admire and you can emulate. It goes a long way to finding somebody to mentor you, though.
Mhm.
If you're in a company and you see somebody that you really admire, and has things you can learn from, if you can get them to mentor you or just try to build a relationship with them that they can teach you a little bit, not overwhelm them, but just try to pick their brains every once in a while, that that can really be helpful in developing you, as well. A lot of people, as long as you're not too overbearing or asking for too much time, they'll give you the time and they'll
Yeah.
teach you. Even now, I switch gears now and I'm retired and I'm doing men's ministry and furniture painting, but I don't know very much at all about men's ministry. So I had to seek out a mentor, somebody that had the skills that I needed. And it was hard, but after about 6 months, I found two guys that would invest in me and teach me and train me. And now I'm taking notes and I meet with them periodically and I'm learning how to retool to do this new job. So it really goes a long way to finding that person that is doing what you want to do, and then getting them to mentor you and move in that direction of that job instead of just trying to do it on your own. Plus reading a lot. In the men's ministry, I'm reading tons of books in that field now to learn it. And the same thing in IT or any job, reading tons of books on material on that, on how to lead, how to solve, how to program, all that stuff really, really helps dramatically develop you in whatever field you're in.
Yeah, that's very very insightful because um I know when I first started with doing artwork back in, let's say, elementary school, well, somewhere middle school and high school, I would seek advice from other student or teachers or faculty members that had the passion of art, and they would mentor me, so to speak, and they would tell me to keep developing my craft and to put forth effort. If I put in just a little bit more effort at a steady pace, then I would perfect my craft or be better than what I've seen to be better. I have to put in that effort, and it took a realization to know where I'm good at, I'm capable of, and what type of art that I can produce. I'm not saying that I can produce art like any other artist because each artist is different, and I respect them and I respect their palaces. But as far as me saying I can draw, let's say, a lamp and fully detailed in under 2 hours, that would be a myth because I know my expertise. My speed is not of that caliber. and I could take my time. So it would be like a 10-hour job for a 2-hour small picture. That's just me personally. And I read. I used to read up in books on Leonardo da Vinci and his golden ratio because I'm a big fan of the math as far as when it comes to proportion actualization of the art. But I would take that different art books or PDFs I would find online. I would save it to my phone and transfer it from phone to phone or laptop to laptop over the years, so I can look back if I have any questions that may arise in my earlier art studies. I would look to that, and I would seek help from other artists. Facebook's a big platform for connecting with other artists through social media. Some of them I've met before, and some of them I have not. So, commenting on a post, how do you do this? How did you approach this way? What type of paint did you use? What type of materials? And usually, the way I present myself is open-ended. I'm confident, not arrogant, because I don't know everything, and I don't have maybe the experience as they do. So I seek their help, and I take what can benefit me for that certain art project. And I also have books, older books from my uncle. His name's Honest Thomas. He's a sergeant in the United States National Guard. And he's a professional artist. He's been doing art way before I was born, and he gifted me his old art books. It may be outdated on some subjects, but the material is the same aspects of me going to a university or community college and getting an associate's degree. I can look back at the books, understand, analyze how I need to present certain pictures. I have an idea. I look through the book, or I go to YouTube. Since, I'm a visual learner and also kinetic. So I would take bits and pieces of how other artists approach their artwork, and if I want to bring their style to my own without replicating it or duplicating it, I would look at the videos, take notes, and take my time. My grandmother told me to always take your time with stuff and then always come back and not rush things. That's a craft of any profession. So I would spend, sometimes a drawing would take me 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. I have one drawing that took me about a month to complete, and I have another one that's going to take me a process of 6 to 7 months, depending on what I want to do with it. And I can't draw forever, I need rest and I have other activities to do. So with that being said, the books and the mentoring is a key aspect of any field. To reading up on your craft, even after you get your degree or you in your position, and seeking out help. That's a big step to growth mindset, building the key core values of, hey, I'm new to this. I need someone who has the experience that I don't have, so I can grow as a minister or as an artist in my perspective field, so I could one day reach out to the next individual under me and say, well, I've been in your shoes. I understand where you're coming from. I have notes and I have these experience to share with you to better guide you on your daily endeavors or whatever tasks that you may have to do to complete your goal in life, And I think that by that, you bringing that topic up to me, it opens up a lot of doors, It's hard for some people, and myself included, to know when you need help. People are proud, they boastful. Not most people, but it's like, I want to do this, or I want to be the best basketball player of all time. Or say I'm young Kobe or young Michael Jordan. They didn't magically become great on their own. They have specific talents that nobody else has. They're different individuals. But they needed to be coached and they needed to be mentored, and they also needed a team. You know, whether it's 8 man or 12 man, they needed they team to assist them to their overall goal. You know, and a lot of people often forget when anybody of any professional they reaches massive success, they think that oh he did it all by himself, and they get into a debate of who's better. I'm like, they may have done it these accolades by themselves and have their name in the Hall of Fame or Forbes list or the Dean Chapel or a plaque on a wall, but every behind every great man and great woman, there's a foundation, you know, as a team, as a system of beliefs that I believe, they believe. And then they have the key core values that they stand on, their experience, and they coach with their morale. And they have their team, whether it's 2 people or multiple people. Because, like I go by the saying that Rome wasn't built in a day and it wasn't built by one man. And it it may have collapsed on that one day, but it was a structural team effort going on both hands. So when I see people it's like, oh, I would like to thank myself and this, that, and the third, but you forget to thank there was a process of you getting to where you were. Somebody had to teach you. Whether it was one man, you had to practice something. And being a human being and being open to that, it's a process and to morals and or shifted to different aspects and corrections. I respect it. I don't really deep dive into what's right or wrong for them because it's different for each situation. But I always have to draw back to the team effort. You know, everybody needs somebody to help them along the way, whether it's a pep talk or constructive criticism or feedback that they need to improve on, because nothing's always born perfect. It's a process, it's stable. It's like when God created the earth in the 7 day process. It wasn't just here's the earth and the inhabitants of the earth. Even in the Bible, in Genesis, he talked about how he formed each aspect and element of the earth that he sees fit, and on the 7th day he rests. That means everybody needs to rest, rethink, rewind, and understand what I need to do for the next day, or how do I prevent this from happening, or how do I deal with this problem that I missed, or a coworker did not understand correctly. So that's the time that they take back. They spend time with their family. I think family aspects of anything is very crucial. You know, spending quality time, social interaction with other human beings, whether it's in a group setting or virtual, as to speak with the COVID-19. You know, everyone's feel a little bit disconnected with the parameters and 6 feet apart and social distancing. I think that everybody still needs that social interaction and that knowing that everything's going to be okay. Because I live by the philosophy of this. Is there someone on this earth that has a harder life than me? And that is why I have the work ethic that I have, or I spend hours on a craft. And I really don't complain because I feel like as a human being, as a situation I'm in, I may have my trials and my tribulations, my obstacles. That's every human being. But as far as to me to say that I'm better than anyone or someone better than me or that don't deserve the same opportunity or that I have or could have, that's blasphemy. That's in my eyes. Some people may not see that because they have different mindsets, and I feel that I have the obligation to help the next person the best way I can. Maybe my time with certain situations that may not resonate with them now, but I think every little bit of advice that I give or I experience from someone, I try to write it down. I try to think about it, my highs and my lows, and grow as a human being and evolve to be a little bit better each day. Because I think that progression is a good aspect of a of being a person, you know, because without new goals and new aspirations, then we get stuck and we don't excel no more. We fall into the deep hole of depression and the self worth ideology. And by you still continuing to indulge in the tasks that you have endeavored in for as the management industry and the financial powers, I think that's a great aspect of a great inspiration to keep going. Even though you retired from AT&T as a principal architect technician, that's a good step forward, and that means you have a growth master. You should continue to go at the age that you are, despite of any obstacles that you may have or will perceive in this lifetime. I think that's a great inspiration for those who are listening in on this podcast or will listen to this podcast today or years from now. I think that everybody should strive to be a more growable person, more evolving person. It didn't have to be expanded to be the next Formula One race car driver or the next Steve Jobs. I think that the person, each individual should really look down to themselves and say, I completed this goal. Let me set another goal. It may be big, it may be small. I know that I need to keep going. I have more to offer the world until the Lord calls me home. And I think that listening to this and analyzing it, getting your feedback, understanding where you came from to it, so to speak, and knowing what you do as a human being, as a man of Christ. That's wonderful and that's fantastic. I love your energy for you to take the time out to present yourself with the information that others may not have access to in this space at this time. I greatly appreciate you, Mr. Reichert, and your time talking to me. You have anything to add or comment?
No, I just a lot of what you said resonates with me, about it all being about a team. Because one thing's critical in work, it's really not about you, it's all about the team. So if your team's not doing well, then you're not doing well, and that's a lot of people don't get that. um, and I like your idea of setting goals and how to improve and being able to evolve, because now things are moving faster and faster in all the industries, and if you're not able to evolve and learn new things and set goals for yourself, no one else is going to do that for you. So you kind of get left behind unless you're able to drive yourself and set goals. The other thing that resonated with me is you're talking about taking rest, because some people, we get the perception that we must push, push, push constantly, and that leads to burnout. But when we have that methodical rest, a little rest each day, a little rest every 7 days, it just makes us so much more effective when we're really pushing to do a good job the rest of the time. But if you don't rest well, you really can't work well. It catches up with you. So all those are good things that resonated with me with what you said.
Yeah, I like that. If you don't rest well, you can't work well. You should use that somewhere. If you don't, then I will. If it's
Yeah,
not
you.
out, yes, and I will send you a shout out. I will be taking notes. But yeah, I like that rest because I'm trying to resonate that with one of my friends. I'm telling her that she needs to rest. She works a lot, and she needs to take time to deal, relax, and figure out what she wants to do with her life instead of working and working and working for a company. I understand that everyone has bills and all that, but in the process of that, some people lose themselves. I want to work 60 hours a week, making $20 an hour. That's great, fantastic, wonderful. But if you're not alive in the next year or two to spend that, then it would have all been for nothing because you said you're working, working. You got disconnected with your family. You're stressed out, you're angry. And then you turn into other obstacles, or I would like to say opening a Pandora's box with substances and other ill will endeavors because you're tired and you don't know where to go, who to turn to, because push everyone away for a certain goal, and now you coming back. You're like, oh, I forgot I got a family back there, and your family's like, we need you too. So it's always good to. It's hard. It's not an easy task to separate home from work, but you gotta take that one day out of a week to rewind, have time for yourself, and realize that life is a beautiful thing. And taking everything for granted and try to be a better human being, try to evolve, try to fix your mistakes. You can't fix all of them. We know that. I mean, that's any human being. You can't. No one's perfect. We make mistakes every day, and owning up to that, learning how to correct constructive criticism, and also teaching the person that you're mentoring about the same mistakes you did, so they can avoid that. You know, I think at most people in a profession, they forget to add those things when they mentoring. Some, but not all people. They would be like, oh, this is how I became a two-time Olympic gold medalist. Oh, but I forgot to tell you that I didn't sleep as much, or I didn't eat the right way. I was tired. I neglected to do this, that, and the third. And then you got this mentee under your wing. He trying to be the next Kurt Angle, and he's following exactly what Kurt Angle did. And he's losing himself in the process, trying to be a man that he's not. He's also living in his shadow. So I think a good mentor would be, if you want to learn this, I'm gonna teach you my way, and I want you to show me how you would approach this. So it can be two sides of the coin. And a lot of people will be like, it's my way or the highway. But they also forget to mention that before it was your way or the highway, it was somebody else's way. It was a collaboration of multiple ideas to get to that one way that has been structured for you to teach the mentee. And now you got this conversation, oh, this is my way. I don't want to hear no feedback from you. And I think that's wrong. I think that even as a mentor, they have room to grow too from their mentee, by asking the right questions, having them giving a valued input. And I think that resonates with being a leader. A true leader is they are adaptable, they're learnable, they teachable themselves. In order to teach somebody, they must be first teachable themselves. They must be adaptable, they must be changing, evolving too. So whenever I tell someone how to do something, or it has something to do with a website or an app, I try the best to teach them on their level, and my area of expertise is different from theirs. They fresh came, they don't understand what I'm talking about. So I break it down for we both have a mutual understanding and avoid conflict as much as possible. I'm not saying that it's not going to arise because you're dealing with emotions and you're dealing with new tools, new technology. And I think that me as trying to be a growing, evolving leader, I know I'm still in my early stages of leadership and development. I need to seek help. So I'll ask questions. I need to ask more questions. I need to step back and, and step away and analyze the situation from their point of view, put myself in their shoes, see how they feel, ask the right questions, wait for adequate response, give them time to breathe, and not just barking down orders or, I want you to do this. You do it the right way. Well, maybe you didn't ask them why you don't understand it this way. How about we go back to the drawing board? Where did we go wrong? And as a leader, that's a very crucial step. At one point, did we get lost in translation? Because I've had this happen to me time and time again. I would tell my team members to execute a task. And they would say, we'll talk for about 20, 30 minutes. I would show them. And then they got other endeavors to do. Everyone has a life. And then, lo and behold, when I come back and they confused. And that's why I started from the beginning to, even if they don't look at the notes, I always would put notes down. I would take notes. I said it's important to take notes because even after this conversation, or any conversation I have, it's good to take notes and to look over those notes. You see, it's one thing to take notes, but it's another thing to actually revisit it. Deep dive, deep process. I call it de-cleansing process. It's a reprocessing step for any task or goal that you have in mind. You write down what you want to do. You write down the steps in the process. You look back, well, how did I grow from this month to next month? How am I going to continue to grow? If I'm not growing, how do I start growing for the next phase of my goal? And I think having a clear vision of a goal and having a good, strong team is very, very beneficial, so to speak. And as a growing individual, an evolving style, a young entrepreneur in the making, I would think that it's always good to write down your goals, check them off, also revisit the process. Revisit what were the steps that got you from point A to point B. Where did you mess up? How did you fix some goals? And with this knowledge, how are you going to, or how am I going to teach the next individual 10 or 20 or 30 years from now how to continue what I've had or to keep going to where they want to be in their life. And I think those steps are very critical when it comes to effective leadership. Knowing where I messed up and teaching the mentee that I'm mentoring or anybody that you're mentoring or giving advice to how to avoid certain situations that they avoided so they won't end up in a different path than you, because me making a mistake the way I made it is different for another individual making the same mistake, because they can end up way left and I'm still on the right path because I know how to adjust to that. For the mentee, they looking at me like, oh well, he did this, he worked this hard, and then they forget that, hey, well, this ain't working for me. Oh well, it's too late. They already on the wrong world, and I'm still over here, and they get lost and they confused because I neglected to put what they say road signs, traffic light, hazards. If I'm walking on the road, I know this puddle is gonna mess with my students. I'm gonna put this caution sign. So when the next question I'm guiding, oh well, I'm mentor, he put this caution sign, I'm gonna walk around the puddle. That way I walk through the puddle because it was my situation at that time. But now I know going looking back, I should put a caution sign at that puddle. So my mentee that I'm mentoring can learn from my mistake and be an effective leader or effective employee or effective human being to whatever goals that they may have in the future. I think that's very critical. And when you said that the team and how you took each part of every individual that you learned from and you pull back, you learn what works for you and how you adjust it for your situation. I think that's a very, very, very insightful concept to be brought into the masses. It's just a slow process. It's not quick bang in a hurry. It's a process that has to be adaptable. And most people don't have a growth mindset, and it's because that's not what they was taught. They were called a closed mindset, or they know when they were presented with a growth mindset. Well, how do I open up to this way of thinking? Will this be bad, or would this be correct? It's all about giving someone the tools, showing them how to use the tools, and have them evolve and grow from there. I think, and so to speak. So my last and final question would be: what are some wisdom, some words of wisdom that you would say to those listening on this video podcast at this moment? What's your takeaway for today?
Oh, I mean, you've covered a lot of stuff that's really good. You've covered teamwork, leadership, um, how to develop personally. Um, all those things are really critical. Um, each of those are almost an entire subject and an entire discipline in and of themselves. Um, but yeah, I, I learned some things, and I can identify with a lot of what you said. Um, as I've been in the work environment for many years. So, but I know if you don't do some of the things you're talking about, you'll either stagnate in your career, or you'll be a poor leader, or you'll be a poor team member. And I don't think you want to be any of those to be effective at work, or
Sure.
effective personally, or effective at life. Those are all things that you need to learn how to do and do them well. And like you said, it's a process. It takes time to learn how to do all those things. But if you're not intentional, nothing will ever happen. So, um, but yeah, I thought good stuff.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, this is all the time we have for today, guys. Tune in next time for another exhilarating and thoughtful and essential podcast from the members of Rising Hope. Uh, I'm the CEO, Centilus Buchanan, and closing out, I have the guest, Mr. Rick Reichert, who graciously joined me and gave me an extensive amount of time, giving me and you watching at home insightful and critical information for you to reach your goals and build a better day for tomorrow. Remember, it's not just a way out, but a way through. Stay true and push through. Thank you for your time.